Hello everyone, I am Aleena Alex. I will be discussing on the topic Movable and Immovable Property under Transfer of Property Act 1882. Transfer of Property Act 1882 is an Indian legislation which regulates the transfer of property in India. Property are broadly classified into movables and immovables. Movables are the ones which can be moved or displaced. However, the immovables are the ones which cannot be moved, which are permanent or which are fixed ones. There are no exact definition of movable properties are given under this Act. But Section 3, Clause 36 of General Clauses Act 1897 defines movable property as a property of every description except immovable property. In this definition also, the emphasis is given to immovable property. So we can understand movable property only through immovable property. Now we can go through certain definitions of immovable property. First we can look into immovable property according to Transfer of Property Act Section 3. It says that immovable property does not include standing timber, growing crop or grass. Next is according to General Clauses Act 1897. It says immovable property includes lands, benefits to arise out of land and things attached to earth or permanently fastened to anything attached to the earth. According to 2 Clause 6 of Registration Act, the expression includes land, buildings, hereditary allowances, right to ways, lights, ferries, fisheries or any other benefits to arise out of land and things attached to the earth or permanently fastened to anything which is attached to the earth but not standing timber, growing crops or grass. Now we can go through the classification of immovable property based on the definitions which we have already discussed. Immovable property are broadly classified into 3. They are land, benefits to arise out of land and things attached to the earth. The things attached to the earth are again classified into 3. They are things rooted in the earth, things embedded in the earth and things attached to what is so embedded. Now we can go through the detailed analysis of the points which we have already seen in the above diagram. First we can look into what is meant by land. Land constitutes every part of the earth which is not covered by water. But the wells, tube wells, ponds, tanks, river, stream and canals which are included in the part of land makes the point little confusing. But it is to be noted that these water bodies are substantially shallow as compared to ocean and seas. And it is enough for a human to have access to the land below these water bodies or waterways. And therefore, they are sufficiently shallow to be known as land. As given in the diagram, the column of space above and the ground underneath the surface are also classified under the topic of land. This means that the subsoil, mines and minerals which are below the ground are also part of land and therefore they are also immovable property. The next one is benefit to arise out of land, which is also known as profit a pentre, which means profits derived from land without having any substantive control over the land. A right to collect rent and profit of immovable property, right to collect dues from a fair or market on land are all categorized under immovable property. For better understanding, now we can go through certain cases. The first one is Anand Behra vs. State of Orissa. In this case, a license was granted by a proprietor to the plaintiff for the catching and appropriation of fish from a certain lake. But the Orissa Estate Abolition Act refused to recognize the license granted to the plaintiff. But the petitioner contended that it's a violation of fundamental right under 19(1)(f), and he also said that catching fish is the sale of future goods, so the act is not applicable to this. But the court held that Fish is a profit arising out of land and it is also considered as immovable property, so the act is applicable for the same. Next case is State of Orissa versus Titagarh Paper Mills Company Limited. In this case, Orissa sales tax empowered state government to impose tax on certain goods. On the basis of this, government issued notice to the contractor of standing timber and bamboo who agreed to sever it. But the contractors contended that it's not a sale but lease of immovable property. But the court held that cutting and removing bamboo from forests for the manufacturing of paper is benefit arising out of land, so it also comes under immovable property, so the parties are liable for the payment of the tax. Next one is things attached to earth. Section 3 of Transfer of Property Act 1882 defines attached to the earth as one of the following. 1. Rooted in earth. 2. Embedded in the earth. Or third one, permanently attached to what is embedded in the earth for the purpose of beneficial enjoyment of that to which it is attached. Trees and shrubs are rooted in the earth and therefore, as a general rule, trees and shrubs are immovable property. An exception to this is standing timber and growing crops. These are the plants which are planted with an intention to sever from land when they are needed or when they are ripened. As held in the case of Jagdish versus Mangal Pandey, the intention will determine whether the plant is movable or immovable, not the size of the plant. Now we can go through the case of Shantabai versus State of Bombay. In this case, the petitioner's husband, a zamindar, granted her the right to take and appropriate all kind of wood from forest through an unregistered document. But the passing of Madhya Pradesh abolition of proprietary rights, which prohibited her from cutting the wood from the forest. But she approached the Supreme Court saying that it is an infringement of her fundamental right under Article 19(1)(f). But the court held that it is a benefit arising out of land and the document should be registered. This one is the case of Fatima Bibi versus Arfana Begum. In this case, the court held that standing timber includes shisham, neem, peepal, banyan, teak, bamboo, etc. and they are classified under movables. And trees like mango, jackfruit, etc. are planted for getting the fruits and no intention to sever the plant from the earth. So, they are categorized under immovable property. Now we can go through things which are embedded in the earth, which means which are firmly fixed to the earth. For a thing to be embedded, we have to consider two things. The first one is degree of annexation, which means the thing has to be embedded in the earth in such a way that if we remove the thing or the object, it needs a great effort or it can even cause damage to the earth itself. The second one is the object of annexation. As we are seeing in the picture, in case of a building, we are building it with an intention for being it placed to the earth for a permanent period of time or without an intention to remove it easily. We can go through things attached to what is so embedded. For that things attached in such a way, we have to consider two things to categorize it into the category of immovable property. The first one is it must be permanently attached, and the second thing is it must be for the beneficial enjoyment of a thing which is so embedded. For example, while we are looking into this picture, we can see certain decorations which are used to make the building more beautiful. But we also know that these decorations are temporary and which are not permanently attached. But while considering the doors and windows of the building, it is permanently attached, and for the beneficial enjoyment of these buildings, the windows and the doors are necessary. So, these things can be categorized in the group of immovable property. For the better understanding, now we can go through a case, that is Duncan Industries versus State of Uttar Pradesh. In this case, a company was asked to pay the stamp duty of their property, but they paid only for the land and not considering the plant and machinery which was included in their land. But the court held that these people has to pay the stamp duty including the plant and the machinery as it would consider under the ambit of things which are attached to the earth what is so embedded. So these are also categorized in the immovable property. So while these people paying the tax, they have to consider plant and machinery as also the immovable property. These are the classification of immovable properties. Hope you all understand. Thank you.